How does nature do business? Nature makes a wide array of products and services very differently than we do. Nature runs on sunlight, not big flows of fossil energy. Nature shops locally, do we? Nature makes everything near to something that's alive at room temperature. Nature doesn't have waste. The output of any process in nature is food for some other. So the most innovative companies today are companies like Calera that down at Moss Landing on the California coast are taking, in that case, the exhaust from a natural gas plant and misting seawater through it. What good does that do? Their owner realized that coral reefs and seashell is nature using carbon to make calcium carbonate. What's calcium carbonate? Portland cement. He's making Portland cement by sucking up the carbon waste of a power plant. For every ton of CO2 he makes, he sequesters a half a ton of carbon. This is the innovative thinking that the smartest cities are trying to attract as the sorts of companies that they want to have operating there. And then finally, operating in ways that involve all of the stakeholders within the community, because all of us are smarter than any of us. Cities that are doing this are turning themselves around. Braddock, Pennsylvania, Rust Belt town, dying, went from 20,000 people to 2,000. Their mayor, John Fetterman, said, we're not going to die, we're going green. They started taking the vacant lots and growing organic vegetables to sell at a higher price point in the fancy restaurants in Pittsburgh, and growing feedstock for biodiesel, refining it in a 100-year-old third-generation oil company. Remember, oil was discovered in Pennsylvania? Upcountry in Sonoma, they put in place a program that enables citizens to get funding to put up solar, to increase the energy efficiency of their buildings. Within the 9 months of this program launching, they had an 8.4% increase in construction trades, where neighboring Napa that did not have this program had a 3% decline. If we want to create jobs, we know how to do it. Bringing into the community the sorts of companies that will come when you have these programs in place. Per megawatt saved in a community, you will generate over $2 million in increased economic output, over $500,000 in increased wages and jobs. If we fully implemented here in California, AB 32, it would increase gross state product by $76 billion and create over 400,000 new jobs, which is why San Leandro as a city has joined other Bay Area cities to oppose Prop 23, which would slash California jobs and prosperity. Funded by whom? Out-of-state oil money. See a connection? Cities around the country are setting aggressive goals of climate protection and meeting them. Olympia, Washington has cut their emissions 30% since 2005. Why? Because if they do it right, they'll cut carbon and they'll save money. Sebastopol, 25-year plan, because they have run the numbers. They know precisely what cutting their carbon emissions will do in saving money, in giving the city one of the healthiest returns on investment that it could have. I like Babylon, New York. They declared carbon emissions a solid waste. They now cover it under their municipal waste ordinances. And they're creating jobs. King County, or up around Seattle, got very concerned that if peak oil is real, nobody knows, but if it's real, they said, how are we going to get food? Let's start buying land in the county as a food shed so that we know that we can grow our own food. And let's start saving energy, cutting our carbon emissions. This is not a political issue. This isn't a Republican or a Democratic issue. This is an issue of prosperity, and it's an issue of national security. My friend Jim Woolsey used to run the CIA. Jim is most assuredly not a liberal. He drives a plug-in hybrid car that he fuels off the solar panels on his roof with a bumper sticker on the back says, "Osama bin Laden hates my car." Renewable energy has an enormous amount to offer to this country if we do it right. Last year we brought on 37 gigawatts of new wind around the world. A gigawatt is roughly a nuclear-sized chunk worth of electricity, except that it's vastly cheaper. But check out China. China last year surpassed the US as the world's wind power. China's putting real money into this. This is a megawatt grid integrated on a roof in China. Rizhao, China. City of 3 million, 99% have solar hot water. How many of you do? Why does Rizhao, China have this much penetration of solar? Because the city said if we can get the volume of solar production up, we can get the cost down and export to you. They are looking at the California market. Baoding, China, the young mayor woke up one morning to find that the lake that the city surrounded had died. The industrial toxins from the legacy industries had poisoned the lake, killed all the fish. He said, polluting first and cleaning up later is very expensive, we're going green. He's started recruiting renewable energy companies to come to Baoding. It's now called China's Electric Valley, and it is driving the prosperity in his region. They're putting solar on yurts and building integrated photovoltaics. About this time last year, Tom Friedman wrote a story about Applied Materials, little company down around San Jose, that makes the machines that make the solar panels. They're opening 14 facilities around the world to do this. They're in Germany, they're in Spain, they're in India, they're in China. How many in the US? 0. Have a nice day. Let's think about this from a standpoint of geopolitics. Go back to the first industrial revolution when we invented commerce using water power to make iron and textiles. And then James Watt invented a steam engine and trains and cotton. Where was that? Where did the first industrial revolution start? England. And think about the geopolitics of the time. The British Navy ruled the waves. The sun never set on the British Empire until some fool found oil in Pennsylvania and Henry Ford built a car and Thomas Edison built a light bulb and General Electric. And then we moved on to petrochemicals and the space race. And then the IT revolution gave us all these little things that have 3,000 songs on them. I really didn't know I needed one until I couldn't live without it. What's next? What's next and who will innovate it? Because the answer to that, American power, American prosperity, has come from our innovating, from our leading the world in bringing on these new waves of innovation. If we let the Chinese be the innovators, not entirely sure we're going to like the consequences of that. The Europeans are innovating. This is a proposal for a pan-European smart grid that Siemens and a number of the European utilities are committed to. Big wind off the North German and Danish coasts, wave off Scotland. Scotland reckons to be 100% renewably powered by 2020. Wave off Portugal, solar across North Africa and the south of Europe, biofuels across the south of Europe, and distributed generation everywhere, all feeding into a smart grid, smart houses, smart cars. The storage for this system will be the batteries of the cars, which is 10 to 15 times the storage capacity that any grid needs. Where are we? Well, we're doing some of it too. Google, company that likes to innovate. This is the Google parking lot. And when you drive your plug-in hybrid car, you plug it in. And while you're at work, your car is sitting there getting charged up. Not bad. And now there are folk working on an electric highway up and down 101. This is the beginnings of innovation, but this is coming from companies, it's coming from communities. And we always get that question. Yeah, as a matter of fact, there is a very strong business case for this stuff. There is a business case for you. It'll save you money. It'll drive your employee attraction and retention. It'll drive your marketing. This is the route to prosperity. And the studies are now in. The companies on the Dow Jones Sustainability Index have been outperforming the general market for over 10 years. Those wild-eyed environmentalists at Goldman Sachs came out with a little report showing that the companies that are the leaders in environment, social, and good governance policy have 25% higher stock value than their non-sustainable competitors. Economist Intelligence Unit, companies with the highest share price growth over the past 3 years paid more attention to sustainability. Conversely, the worst performing companies in the economy were most likely to have nobody in charge of sustainability. This really matters. This is what we call the sustainability imperative. You really don't have a choice. Your choice is between prosperity and losing competitiveness as a company, as a community, as a region, as a country. And if you don't believe me, why is the world's largest retailer going green? This is the 800-pound gorilla of the sustainability world. If you had told me 5 years ago that Walmart was going to be the most potent force for driving sustainability, I would have thought it vanishingly improbable. But they are. They're putting real money into it. They've pledged to be 100% renewably powered, carbon neutral, and sell only sustainable products. Are they there now? No. Are they moving in that direction? Very, very seriously? Yes. Here is the Walmart Sustainability Index, which they set out to their 60 to 90,000 suppliers. Question number 1, have you measured your greenhouse gas emissions? Question number 2, are you reporting it to the Carbon Disclosure Project? Who? CDP is a group of young people. Paul Dickinson's about my age, but the rest of them are pretty much all kids, who a couple of years ago, about 10 years ago, just 'cause, sent out to the Financial Times 500 biggest companies on earth, a little survey saying, what's your carbon footprint? You can imagine the reaction. Everybody ignored it until about 5 years ago, when 60% of the biggest companies on earth answered the kids. Why? For one thing, the kids represent institutional investors with now over $64 trillion in assets. If you want to go to the capital marketplace, you might want to answer their questions. And for another, Walmart hired the kids first to go to China, and then they stuck them on the scorecard. Best find out who those kids are. Water, solid waste. Have you established sustainability purchasing guidelines for your suppliers? Walmart's not only doing it to its suppliers, it's doing it to its suppliers' suppliers. And Walmart has now created the Sustainability Consortium with about a dozen other companies of approximately the same size, companies like Safeway. Why? I guess old Sam Walton was a heck of an entrepreneur. He said, incrementalism is innovation's worst enemy. We don't want continuous improvement, we want radical change. So don't think that Walmart has stopped. Now globally, we face some fairly potent forces. We're losing every major ecosystem on the planet, the Global Biodiversity Outlook 3 that issued last May. We are in a climate crisis. Economic instability, volatile energy prices, China and India in the world market for essentially all resources. Water, that'll be the next big crisis. Food prices are going up again, as are energy prices. And then this concept of the sustainability imperative. This is the climate within which you are doing business. You don't have a choice about this. Your choice is how you respond. Buckminster Fuller, the great innovator, said the best way to predict the future is to invent it. You've heard this phrase, yeah? Don't take a risk, the second mouse gets the cheese. Come on, guys, let's be like this little feller. Let's slap on a helmet and go for it. This, I think, is the opportunity before us. San Leandro can choose its future, or you can remain at the mercy of those big global forces. I submit to you, you probably want to choose your own.